soot in my hair, cinders in my shoes. I'm watching the needle falling away and singing the 8th grade blues.
The railways these days are lacking that sense of brutal strength it possessed back in the 1960s. This isn't much the case for heritage railways. One such railway in West Somerset, with its rich selection of locomotives, these specific diesels are lovingly restored and maintained by the DEPG, a group of volunteers dedicated to repairing these machines of the past.
My name is Colin Foxhall. And I lead a small team and we rebuild transmissions. We're rebuilding both of the transmissions for a locomotive called 1010. I've always been an engineer all my life. Started off with Meccano when I was 5 and I spent a lifetime working in engineering. I love it here. I like being with the people here as well. They've all got their own story to tell, you know, they've all got a past and they're generally great to work with. You know it's big stuff and we have to be very, very careful when we're doing it because we could easily get ourselves injured and that's the last thing we want. So we do our work very, very carefully during the day. The challenges are that nobody has really done this for a long time. So we're having to reinvent a lot of the methods, the engineering methods to do it. And some of them aren't appropriate in the 21st century. So we have to adapt for a modern working environment. This transmission came out of the locomotive that holds the speed record from Penzance to Paddington, or Paddington to Penzance, one of the two. And there are 2 of these in the loco. One of them seized up at a diesel gala a couple of years ago, so we had to completely rebuild it. And because the other one seized up, we felt we had to examine the other one right down to every last bit to see whether that one needed rebuilding, and indeed it did. So we've rebuilt the whole thing and this is it. So we've now rebuilt both of the transmissions from that loco.
My name is Terry Deacon, age 73, born in 1950. My job role is fitter train crew. I'm working on a Class 15, 9518 and 9526. I maintain with my colleague the engines and the running gear of those particular locomotives. I started doing photography on the main line with steam engines. I was involved with Yeovil Junction turntable affairs, and then I migrated to the West Somerset and the DEPG when a diesel locomotive that was at the Yeovil Junction moved down here, and I was going to work on it down here. I enjoy the engineering and working with old stuff. I started off in the motor trade for 7 years and then moved into an aerospace company and learned engineering and fine precision work, and coming down here with the engineering side of things has been exactly what I want for my retirement. We have 2 teams, there's a Saturday team and a Tuesday team. Good fun, we have a good rapport. Tuesdays is better because it's a smaller team. Saturdays is a lot more people with a lot more different interests, so we have a much more diverse team here on a Saturday than on a Tuesday. The job presents challenges because we're working with old equipment and finding suppliers to replace it and making bits to fit where they've lost them before. So we're trying to, that's the challenge, manufacturing bits and suppliers.
My name is Linda Trott, and I'm a General Duties Assistant here at the Diesel Depot. I'm working on the Teddy Bear, the Class 14 shunter that's being reassembled, and I'm currently painting the sandbox assembly parts with red oxide, ready for reassembly. Well, I recently moved to Williton and retired, and my brother was the general manager here at one time, so I had contacts with the railway over time, so I thought it was a good idea to become a volunteer. So I volunteer here 1 day a week, and then when the railway starts up again in March, I'll be in Williton station as a booking clerk. Yeah, each week is varied. Last week we were clearing buddleia and brambles outside because it was a lovely day and cold but frosty. Today we're painting. Next, it's something different every week, which is good. I mean, I do what I can to my limitations. I'm not an engineer. I'm not, you know, I can't work with any of the heavy equipment or power tools, but I can do a lot of the menial tasks. So, you know, it's knowing what you can do and fitting in with the team. I took a ride on the footplate of the steam train at Christmas on one of the Santa trains, courtesy of my brother, who's also a steam engine driver, and he arranged for a footplate pass for the day. So I did 2 trains with hundreds of excited children and Santa and the Grinch on the platforms. Yes, it was a lot of fun.
Right, my name's Nicholas Boyce. My job role here is a volunteer on a Tuesdays. How did I get into it? I was introduced to this by Mr. Deacon, who I used to work with previous to me being retired, and he said come along and try it, and I really enjoy it. Very rewarding. I quite like working as a team, and it's good camaraderie here between all of us on a Tuesday. No major fallings out. I've been coming for about probably about 8 years now. Well, we turn up, usually get here about 8 o'clock. First thing is obviously a cup of tea, have a chat and discuss, you know, what we've been up to previous week. And then Terry gives us a list of things to do, and we just get on with it really. Sometimes it's difficulty finding tools here as they get misplaced or broken. Sometimes we've got to order up new parts which are hard to source and so on, because they're obviously obsolete parts now and difficult to come by. Come and join us if you can.
Jeffrey Miles, volunteer, DEPG, mainly working on hydraulics, Western, Hymex, etc. The current project that I'm working with Colin Foxhall on the reconditioning of the transmission from the Western 1010. Back in the 1980s, I happened to go to Didcot Railway Centre, and I found that the Western 1010 had been moved there from Foster Yeoman quarries, and I met a guy and we were chatting, and so I then joined the group and started working on the Western while it was at Didcot. I've been messing about, I think I spoke before, on some old videos I've been messing about with. I think one of the notable things was where they were moving large stones up to Minehead for sea defence, and we were lucky enough to attach the Western on the front of the stone train, which is what they were used for many years ago, and took that through to Minehead. Very memorable, that. I'd just like to say it's a very good group, and I've enjoyed all my years actually working with them.
My name is Tim Zilka, and I am an assistant in the transmission team, which is led by Colin, who you know. The current project is the complete restoration of one of the 2 big transmission units in the Western locomotive that belongs to this group. So it's a great big maroon loco, and there are 2 transmissions, and this is the second one. We've already done the first one, and that's stored away in a shed nearby. After I retired from being a doctor in the hospital, I came to visit, and I had a couple of days for me to be an assistant in the cab and to have a supervised go at driving some of these locomotives. And then after the pandemic, I approached the management here and said, you know, I'd like to come, and they said, would you like to come on Tuesdays? The first job we did when I first came in was that Colin was welding a lot of sheet metal onto the side of the body of that locomotive, which had rusted out, and we had to be fire watching, because when you do welding it's at high temperature, and then we'd spend the afternoon letting it all cool down, because you cannot leave this building at night unsupervised with stuff that is too hot to touch, because there could be a fire. There were some days when it was almost too hot to breathe. There isn't really a, you know, as I say, there isn't a factory that can go and do this. Those factories stopped producing those things 60 years ago. So really we're back to basic first principles as to what is worn out, what needs to be mended, and what we can afford, because nobody said we have to be here. It's all charitable donations, and you know, so when those bearings we showed you, you know, they're £1,000 each, well, that's good. Well, money's got to come from somewhere. And if anybody wanted to get involved in it, then, you know, what we need is younger people, because we're all of a certain age, and it's all very well using the young retired who've got lots of experience, but in 10 years' time we'll all look a bit different, and so we need some succession planning, get some newer volunteers and bring those skills.